Hi, I'm Rodney A. Brooks. Welcome to RodneyABrooks.com. Today we're talking with Bobby Kinzer, who is with the Society for Financial Education and Professional Development, a certified financial education instructor. Bobby,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Rodney.
Okay. Now, Bobby, you also have your own nonprofit?
Yes, for 20 years, I've been the president for LIFE. It's the Literacy Institute for Financial Enrichment. We're a nonprofit organization that's been teaching financial literacy and promoting financial literacy in the, I want to say DMV, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, and across the country, but we focus on the metropolitan area here in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so we're going to talk about financial literacy, but we're going to talk about it a lot because Bobby Kinzer is also a former professional basketball player, and he wrote a new book, which we're going to talk about later.
Cool.
And when we talk about that book, we're going to talk about athletes and financial literacy.
Big subject.
Right. But right now, let's talk about financial literacy. It's I should say Bobby Kinzer spent 30 years with the FDIC in Washington before he retired, and so. But literacy has always been a passion with you. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, mainly let me back up. No, it has not always been. But when I stopped playing professional basketball and got into the financial world, then financial literacy the world started opening up and I was being exposed to it, and I just started just eating it up because I am a sociology anthropology major from the University of the District of Columbia. And when I went overseas and came back, I was hired as a financial analyst and a stockbroker for the Acacia Group and the Calvary Group. And from then, I just started, that was drawing me in. I got the more knowledge, I started taking courses they were paying for, and that just really encouraged me to go further, to take more classes, and that's when the passion really started.
Okay, so, and right now, do you deal mostly with young people, or you deal with all ages when it comes to financial literacy?
I deal with all ages. At the Society for Financial Education and Professional Development, we deal with HBCUs because we have special programs where we teach them, train the trainer to teach their peers.
Historically black.
Yes, historically black colleges and universities. And we up to now, we've interfaced with over 70, but we specifically deal day to day with 40 right now with this program called Student Ambassador Program. But with the other company, the organization I work for, we deal with from elementary, middle school, junior high, high school, young adults, and even senior citizens.
Okay, so, now you talked about a bunch of groups. Now, what's the difference in how you educate somebody in first and second grade versus the senior citizens? I mean, talk about them.
Wow.
and how you may talk to them versus how you may talk to a high schooler versus how you may talk to a college versus how you talk to somebody, middle age versus a senior citizen.
Great question, because you have to meet them where they are, and then especially with the younger group, well, not just the younger group, you can lose people's attention if you're not reaching them where they are. So how we talk to the younger people, let's say elementary school, right? We won't get into, strategies, but we'll talk about like piggy banks and saving money and the denominations of money, and we'll start at that level. Then we'll move into, and this is what we found out, we were doing high school and freshmen going into college, we started seeing that the middle school students were able to keep up with what we were teaching high school and college students, which was so interesting. So we try not to get too much into philosophy and too much into the strategies. But with the younger group, we talk about budgeting. We talk about, the main thing is mindset, and that crosses all of the age groups, right? The first thing, because that's where most people is their values that drives their choices. So we catch all the groups with that. But it is definitely, you need to make sure you address the information at the level that they are.
Okay, so let's talk about senior citizens,
Yes.
because you would think, because a lot of people say, well, when I talk to other financial planners all the time, say people come in and they come in after they've retired and they look at their finances, and you may say, well, you really can't retire right now because you haven't saved enough.
Ooh,
And so,
that's a tough, tough conversation.
So what kind of information you assume that these people are up there in years? So what kinds of advice can you give to people when you say citizens? Let's say 50 and over.
I'm glad you gave that age, because it depends. Like with all ages, right? Even with the seniors within that group, it depends on how you address them too. Different at 50 than if you're talking to somebody 70, right? But if it's at 50, it's never too late. See, that's the main thing they need to understand, because most people who retire, they think it's too late. And when I was at the FDIC, I handled the actuary tables for my actuaries to predict the post-retirement costs for the FDIC, and I learned that the actuary tables until around about, I think, 2014 were the same actuary tables they were using for 40 years, which was saying somewhere like women life expectancy was 68 and men was somewhere like 66, 67. But in 2014, they redid the actuary tables, and they're saying, women were like at 80, 88, and men at 86 life expectancy. So if you were doing people's financial plan based on 70 years old, you come up short. So now if you're 50, while I'm saying that means you got even more time to still invest in some things that may be not as conservative as you would want to be. So we'll talk to people, especially who retired and be in their 50s, 58, even 60. It's not too late. It's never too late, and it's amazing how, because people only know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. And I don't care what age you're at, but once you find out where they are, you can build a plan to help them to either preserve their money or still be able to increase their net worth or their wealth. And some people say, well, why would a person at 71? Because you might want to leave it to some other people, not just your kids, to a charity.
Okay, so let's talk about when we're talking about people 50 and over, there was this rule where you subtract your age from 100.
I remember that one.
To
Yes. And that tells you what
percentage should be in stocks versus bonds.
Yes.
But now that rule is like out the door because people are living longer now. And now you and other financial advisors say people 50 and over should stay in the market, correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You have time, right? Especially if you're 50, you got at least 10 years, and actually I go to 70. 20 years, so that means you got 20 years for your money to work. And if you understand the rule of 72, right, your money's going to double, and say if it's an investment in 10 years, 10%, in what's that, 7 years is going to double, right? So it's never too late. But what I try to educate people with, Rodney, is you need to determine what is your goals. I don't care what age you are. What are you trying to do? That's what to determine what investment you should be in. I don't care what age you're in. That should be the first thing. Your risk tolerance, one. Well, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Then that determines what instruments you should be in. And that has to do with your age, but a lot of times it doesn't. It's about, most people don't really establish their goals. They just hear something from their cousin and they heard that it's doing well and they want to jump into it.
We just talked to Carl Mack, a man who 61 years old. He's been retired for 10 years. But we're talking about risk tolerance, and his was like off the charts. Wow. This man was high risk.
Yeah. Very few people are that.
Right.
Was he a black man?
Yes, he was.
That's very rare. No. No attack on black folks, but we're some risk-averse people.
We're really probably too conservative, correct?
Yes,
As
correct.
black folks.
Yes.
But we wanna do more, and that's one of the things you try to educate people about is that we are as black folks, we will go. We don't want. We're afraid of the market, and we'll go for the safe investment.
But we're not afraid of the lottery. That's what kills us. We're afraid of the market. We're not afraid. We're not afraid of MGM Grand and what's it, Live, the casino. Yeah,
Yes.
interesting.
So, you've been doing this long enough that are there some success stories? I mean, you see people like years later and they say, "God, I'm so glad you told me that."
Yeah, that's the ones that make me really feel good because, in this world that we live in, culture, you only tend to hear when you do something bad or the stocks you told somebody about and they did bad, but they never tell you about the good things. But I do have success stories with somebody. I see a young person, maybe just that was in college and did a thing, and I see them 3 years later, they out of college, and they go, "Oh, Mr. Kinzer, man, what you were telling us about, compound interest and taking a little bit more risk in school and investments about stocks and bonds, oh my God, it paid off, and about home ownership, and I got a house now," and that just pumps me up. It makes me feel really good. And I have friends that were the first DC lottery winners, right? And back then, the DC lottery was 1.2 million, right? And it was only an annuity. It wasn't, you couldn't have a lump sum.
Right.
So it was for 20 years, and it was for $67,500 a year before taxes. So all their friends was telling them, "Oh, y'all got it made," and my friends, they stayed and they worked, and I'm so glad they did. But they were my first clients when I first came out of basketball, being a financial advisor, and I'm happy for them because they benefited.